you are ready for today's show as I get everything going here. Sorry about the little audio issue that didn't kick in until the last second. I didn't notice it. But anyway, I am here with Mike Bluehair and Honor Your Oath, the infamous founder, or I guess you can say starter, of the whole civil rights, well, the First Amendment audit testing kind of thing from, I'm not exactly sure when he started it. Mike and Jeff, you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here as well.
Excellent. It looks like that audio is working. I didn't notice it was actually working when I was doing the initial setup here, but let's go ahead and get today started.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to give a shout out to Techno Axe. That's that awesome bumpity bump metal stuff you guys heard when the show first started. And I would like to thank Jeff for coming on. Thanks a lot, dude. I have nothing but mad respect for you. And, you know, you've inspired me through the course of your work. Every so often I'll see another one of your videos and I'm like, that was just amazing. You know, you bring a higher standard to the auditing and the First Amendment audit or the First Amendment check type stuff. And I just wanted to thank you for coming on.
Hey, thank you, right back at you. You know, I have a lot of respect for you and David as well. I love y'all's work. It's good stuff, definitely.
Right on. So let's get right into it. The whole point of strategic noncompliance for new listeners is that I reach out and Bunny reaches out to people that aren't conforming to the status quo, and we're trying to increase the knowledge base of how to resist this system of tyranny. So I'll get right into it with Jeff. What was your genesis, man? Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back type event for you that got you from living your life as kind of like, you know, a normal average Joe, and what brought you into the foray of activism?
Well, as a lot of people know, I'm a professional truck driver, and driving a truck down the road, I see a lot of police activity going on the side of the road, people being searched and things like that. And there's a couple of towns in particular close to where I live in Florida. There's one that's called Lottie, and there's one that's called Waldo. And they're really bad speed trap towns. And I just wanted to, with YouTube coming about and all the stuff that could get out there and show people what's going on, back in 2011, I started a YouTube channel, and I wanted to show everybody that these towns of Lottie and Waldo in Florida were speed traps to hopefully prevent people from getting stopped and given a ticket and getting their car searched and all that type of stuff, and having to deal with these small town redneck cops that nobody wants to deal with anyway. So I was hoping I could put that out there and just avoid some hassle for some people, and that's how it all kind of got started.
Right on. So about what year was this when you first started doing the police accountability, liberty activist type stuff? What year?
It was at the end of 2011, and the beginning of 2012, right around in there. It was right around at that time.
Right on, right on. So your first encounter, let's see, but baby Mike Gray, when he's comes out there with a camera, how did that go down? How were you treated by law enforcement at your first contact as an activist?
My first contact with law enforcement as an activist was in Lottie, Florida. I went down there I was standing on a public sidewalk filming the law enforcement speed trap activity in that little town. And within, I'm standing on the sidewalk pointing my camera at them, and within 5 minutes, I'm surrounded by law enforcement, and they're threatening me. They're threatening to snatch my camera from me. They're telling me I'm gonna go to jail. You're gonna go to jail, boy. Why are you out here filming law enforcement? It was quite an introduction to the whole filming law enforcement in the course of their duties type of thing. That cop watch. They wound up taking my camera from me, detaining me, threatening to arrest me, and yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow, like just right out of the gate, just snatching your camera and stepping on your liberty immediately, huh?
Yeah, and that was back in late 2011 when I very first started, and I had an older camera that was actually had tape in it, and I still think I have that video somewhere. It's never seen the light of day because I've never figured out how to get the video from the actual cassette tape that was in those old camcorders and get it digitized and put on YouTube. So nobody's actually seen that video.
Oh, wow. That's like something from the archives, man.
Yeah, yeah. And I was eventually arrested in that town. I was in Lodi. I think a lot of people have seen the video. I was standing on the sidewalk holding a sign saying "speed trap ahead," and they came out and arrested me for doing that. Spent the night in jail.
Oh, wow. So denying you of your liberty, interfering with your ability to conduct your business, freedom of movement, for daring to interrupt the flow of revenue generation.
Yep, that's right. That's the way Lottie did it. The chief of police ordered my arrest. You could hear it right on the radio traffic.
So, what is Jeff's philosophy of accountability activism? What is your modus operandi? If there's other people out there on the interweb and they want to emulate what you do, how would you share your philosophical ideas about what you're doing?
I guess the biggest thing that I want to achieve and accomplish is transparency in government. And that gets right down to our civil right. Photography is not a crime to document what, not just law enforcement, but all public officials, to document what they're doing. We have a right to know what they're doing on our behalf and our expense. That goes hand in hand with filming them and documenting them, and also accessing public records, and so we can see what they're doing and how they're communicating and stuff that they try to do behind the scenes and hide. You can discover a lot of that through public records.
My First Amendment right to free press.
Right on.
And I'm
So you would consider yourself a constitutionalist, for a lack of a better word?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm definitely a constitutionalist. I'm politically, I'm a libertarian. Personally, I'm Christian conservative. I live my life in a Christian conservative fashion, but I'm a libertarian. Otherwise, I don't think that I should impose my ideas on everybody else and or use the government to force other people to behave the way I think they should. Libertarian at heart. So.
Right on. Now, your style of police encounters is sometimes you're a little bit sarcastic, but you never go anywhere near to the level of some of us that specialize in heckling and using extreme languages or hyperbole. Do you feel that your Christian faith informs your attitude, the way that you interface with law enforcement? Because you're very polite. You give them all the rope they need to hang themselves, and they usually do. Do you feel that your faith has helped you with I just have to say, an awesome amount of patience, because I would have tore them a new one. Every one of your videos, like in the first 4 or 5 minutes, I would have already started talking about what I'm going to do with their mama. I would have, told them that they're pigs and they're rooting around in the person's car like they're hunting for truffles. Like, do you feel that your Christian faith informs your ability to have that patience?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. I don't know if I've really ever put that out there, but my Christian faith definitely try to keep me grounded, keep me humble, and guides me when I'm out there doing what I'm doing. Definitely, for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Right on. So, let's say your typical First Amendment audit by the numbers. How do you go about researching before you show up on a public thoroughfare beside federal property? Can you teach the audience how you do this, like the steps? Yeah,
sure. And I want to go back to what you were saying. Just before this, you have a different style. Daniel Solomon has a different style. Bunny Boots has a different style. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the way some people do it when they get out there. And can I have more banter back and forth with law enforcement? I don't do it. One of the reasons I don't do it, I'm just not as quick-witted as you are. So I have a particular set of responses that I stick with. Everybody has their own style, and there's really nothing wrong with anybody else's type of style. I think it's all good. I like it all.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I find a lot of value in the Bunny Boots kind of tradition of the silent treatment and your polite style and my heckle them to embarrass them. In a multitude of other styles, there's so many people that do this now, and you're one of the progenitors or one of the first big names out there, and you've inspired a lot of folks to do this. you know, the First Amendment audit type things. I've inspired a lot of folks to do cop watching type stuff. I've actually founded a couple of other chapters around the country that wanted to do stuff that are similar to what I'm doing. And cop watching is a lot different than the audit work. You know, cop watching is actually listening to the police scanner and going on a patrol and policing the police. You know, a First Amendment audit is more like showing up in an area where it's not really a gray area. You're right to clearly do it. Is clearly established by law, is to film from public property. But the micro tyrants, as I call them, the people in uniforms, sometimes not necessarily even the ones with policing powers, just security guards, will try to act as if though they have some authority to, you know, demand your video equipment, for instance, or ask you to erase your camera footage and whatnot. And you know, those are succinct differences, but you know, I'm kind of fascinated by the people that just do auditing, because you know, when I'm out doing a patrol and listening to police driving around in the car, I might come across, you know, 10 stops that are very innocuous. I mean, and many of them will be police helping people sometimes. You know, there'll be a cop doing a courtesy ride or helping a mentally ill person find, you know, medical treatment. Or it might be, you know, someone being pulled over and drug out of the car because of the melanin content of their skin. It's very random what I do. But with the First Amendment auditing stuff, Jeff, you're guaranteed to get a response. And, you know, there's pros and cons to that, because, you know, I've seen a lot of auditors get arrested a lot more than a lot of cop watchers. And the reason why is because these micro tyrants that wear a uniform that sort of looks like a cop's uniform they really overstep their goose stepping, for lack of a better term, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah. You know, there's when you do audits, I prefer to call them civil rights investigations now, because that's what I believe I'm doing, is I'm going out and investigating, you know, public employees to see if they're going to comply with our right to hold them accountable through transparency of filming them and out, and you know, public records also. But when you're doing the civil rights investigations, we're doing an audit. It's the right to film them. Photography is not a crime. You have a right to document what they're doing, and that's a much more controlled environment where you can plan it, where you can make sure that before you go out, do some research. You look on Google Earth, Google Maps to make sure there's a sidewalk there. I refer to the sidewalk as the Golden Brick Road. And of course, for the longest time, I got really spoiled with my my good friend Thomas Covenant, also known as the Epic Old Guy, who recently passed away. He did a lot of the research for me, and you know, it's a combination of both things. A lot of it is planning ahead, doing the research, looking on Google's Maps, Google Earth, and doing other, you know, searches on there about the police station, everything, or whatever type of entity you're going to go investigate. But a lot of times it's just driving down the road and seeing a facility that looks like a secure facility and just saying, hey, I wonder what will happen if I get out and point my camera towards this government building, whatever it might be. A lot of it's just stumbling across it. A lot of it's you know, research ahead of time. So it's both things. You know, it's both things. And I do some cop watching myself. I do it more as through the Stringer app. I go out and respond to scenes of accidents and fires and you know, shootings and things like that in the local area that I do for Stringer, which is an app that the local news media uses. And you go out and they send you to a certain area to cover an accident, say, and that's a much more risky situation, because a lot of times you're going out at night, like you do, Mike, and you know, the cops can be a little more hostile when you're out there at night and you're filming an accident scene. Even, you know, I've had that's not only law enforcement; it's other first responders such as fire rescue. You know, I've even had a guy from the Red Cross tell me that I needed to go home one night.
Oh, how adorable! Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was not exactly my normal polite self with that gentleman. I told him to basically piss off and shut his mouth.
Well, you
like,
know,
you're with the
sometimes
Red Cross? Are you kidding me?
Sometimes it must be done, Jeff. It must.
It
you
does.
know,
It absolutely does.
when a tyrant you know, bears his neck, sometimes it's important to step on it. You know, But that reminds me of something, and I'm going to ask you if you encounter this. When I'm filming either an accident scene or an encounter with the police that ended up in a use of force being used, and the police are waiting for medical to show up, I get first responders like EMTs or ambulance drivers, or either people from a coroner's office out here telling me that it's a HIPAA violation for me to film in public. You know, do they ever try that BS with you, where they say you're violating HIPAA if you're filming this, you know, violent scene outside in the world?
Absolutely, that's par for the course. You have it's a combination of both things. You have first responders that actually believe that's true, and you have first responders that know that it's not true but still try to intimidate you. You know, they tell you it's a HIPAA violation. They tell you it's a crime scene. You can't film it because it's a crime scene. They'll shine their lights in your camera to blind your camera. They will they'll actually stop rendering aid to a victim in some cases that I've experienced, and turn their attention to you, shining their lights in your camera, moving equipment to block your view, which is stupid because you just moved down the road a few more feet. You can still see the scene. You know, placing their bodies in front of the scene, extending the crime scene tape. It's just really childish. It's really silly. If they would just do their jobs and just leave us alone and let us do our jobs, what we're there to do,
it is childish, and I've seen a lot of sophomoric stuff. I've had cops do all the very same things to me, driving the car in front of my sight line, shining the flashlight at me. I've been threatened with arrest and told I was interfering while I'm filming, and that resulted in a bunch of, you know, more times than I can count, a string of expletives. What I'm a big fan of doing is when something that I'll do is like, you know, when they make a threat, even if it's the most innocuous one, if it's a hinted threat, I always say, you know what, if you think I'm doing something illegal, I'll put my hands behind my back right now and I'll walk over to you, and you can arrest me. If not, you know, F off. You know, like I won't physically resist you. Go ahead and take me then. You know, like, but, you know, everybody has to know their limits. You know, I tell people that when they first want to start cop watching, that, you know, you have to know your limits. You have to research what your civil rights are. You have to research the difference between detention and arrest. You have to know if you're willing to go to jail or not. Because when you do this, it's not a matter of if I'm going to get arrested, hypothetically. It's a matter of when, you know.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, you're 100% correct. You're going to, if you go out and you do this with any regularity, or a lot of people, they might get arrested the very first time they point a camera at a law enforcement officer or an accident scene or a fire. It's really disgraceful in America that happens. But one thing I definitely want people to understand is, when you go out and you do any kind of, whether it's cop watching, whether you're doing civil rights investigations, audits, you are definitely putting your freedom at risk, your treasure at risk, and even your life at risk. Because I've had guns drawn on me more than once, going out there and just doing nothing more than pointing my camera at public officials. And
wait, so, I mean, I know of these stories, but can you give one example of when a law enforcement officer aimed a weapon at you while you're filming?
I haven't had one actually point their weapon out at me. I've had them take it out of the holster and hold it at what they call the low ready. And that was back when I was doing Second Amendment investigations or Second Amendment audits, when I would open carry in the state of Florida while fishing, which is legal here, but it's not a very well-known law because not a lot of people do it. It's not
wow. And you were just holding your camera, right? And your other hand was out in plain view?
Right. I was open carrying. My firearm was in a holster, and I was walking back to my car. I was actually getting ready to go home, and that's when gosh, I can't even remember what police department it was. It was a city. It was a municipality. They arrived and detained me, and he drew his weapon and kept it at the low ready, and ordered me to keep my hands where he could see them at all times. I was up in Brunswick, Georgia, at the the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. It's called FLETC. It's like FLETC is an abbreviation. Mm-hmm. Florida Law Enforcement Training Center. It's a federal facility where they train law enforcement from all over the country.
Now, is Florida open carry?
Florida is open carry when you are hunting, fishing, camping, or going to or from such an event.
Okay. So,
Yep.
you know, you're definitely in compliance with the law. Like, how's that make you feel? Like, honestly, to have a cop approach you when you're doing something that's perfectly legal, and you're basically being menaced with a lethal weapon at that point.
Well, it's definitely scary. You know, your life is at risk. I actually don't do that anymore because I'm afraid of getting shot by the police, so I don't exercise that right anymore. Just to be honest with you, it's too risky. Thomas actually talked me out of doing it. He said, "Don't do the open carry audits anymore," so I don't. But yeah, it's really disturbing to know that, you know, you have your rights in America, but if you exercise those rights, you take a risk of being shot, killed by law enforcement who should know better, who should know the law.
Yeah, I totally want to touch on something you reminded me of there, Jeff, is the simple fact that police on the regular, they do actions that would, you know, if a citizen were to do these same actions, the police would shoot them on the spot. Like, for instance, you know, I just spent about an hour and a half, you know, scanning around your channel, and, you know, one of the common themes is when cops are talking to you, they'll sit there and they'll put their hand on top of their pistol while they're talking to you. I mean,
yeah, they like to rest their hands and their arms on their pistol. Actually, you know, rest their hands right on the grip of the pistol there. Yeah, that's troubling.
It's troubling, but like if you were to do that near a cop, they just shoot you dead right there. But they're able to do this, and they expect the citizenry to just tolerate that. And there's something like I spend a lot of time reading police reports and trying to do I try to be objective. I mean, my focus of activism is very anti-authoritarian. I don't believe, you know, as an anarchist, I don't believe that government has the legitimate they have no more legitimacy. There is no more moral, you know, mandate from them that I can believe that they have the right to initiate force against other human beings at this point. There is no republic, you know, there is no constitutional republic anymore. It's in name only. I mean, the reason why I'm an anarchist is because I believe government is completely illegitimate. It predicates and sustains itself on nothing more at this point than the actual use or the implied use of force. Everything is about a different level of threat with them. So the reason why I'm an anarchist, Jeff, is because I would rather live a moral, just life, and I would rather go along to get along. I would rather, you know, live and let live, and try to live my life and conduct my life on my own moral compass, and try to be a good person. But I don't need government to squat on top of me and act as if though they're an arbiter on my behalf. I mean, that's why prosecutors claim that the state is a victim on behalf of someone else. They're like the state versus blah blah blah. You know, a lot of times if people fight in the street in Oregon, you know, and both parties say we're good, you know, we're done fighting. You know, the prosecutor, the district attorney can still turn around and say, oh, well, you know, both of you are victims. You both get Measure 11 assault charges, or Subject A gets Measure 11 assault charges, but Subject B doesn't. You know, the state claims the super ultra extra right to be a victim on behalf of the people, and there's so much logical inconsistency with the way that government interfaces with the people that it claims that it's representing, that, you know, I would rather try to go about my life in a moral, ethical way without government. And that's what it is for me, is personal responsibility. I believe that if people would take it upon themselves to not try and to psychologically depend on government. This whole entitlement stuff and, you know, government interacting and being part of someone's life from the time that they're, you know, putting their baby footprints on their birth certificate until they're dead. And even after they're dead, there's a death tax for God's sakes. You know, I just don't feel like they have any legitimacy. And that's one of the primary reasons why I'm so interested in other people's civil rights and their civil liberties, is because it's my own self-interest. I am interested in defending a Christian, a communist, a you know, a liberal, a social justice warrior. All these people, I believe, they have natural human rights that predated the Constitution, and I'm interested in defending everyone's civil liberties as if though they were mine. You know, and if other people would do that, if they would stand up for one another, I think we'd live in a more ethical society and we wouldn't need as much government. And as a constitutionalist, what are your thoughts about this?
I agree with you pretty much. Fully agree with you. You know, I try to set myself, I try to set my my brain to default to individual liberty whenever considering or contemplating an issue. I always try to set my brain to default to the individual liberty aspect of it. Unfortunately, the majority of people, not just Americans, the majority of people don't do that. They do the opposite, basically, and they kind of set their brain to default to what needs to be done to make this person behave the way I think they should behave. And you know, that's one of our big problems. You know, is that people think that they need to have government control other people's lives, and that's why we are in the trouble that we're in right now. And I think they're educated to think that way. I think it's been set up to be thought that way, that where people have a thought process to where they are dependent on government, and it's just a sad situation, you know.
So I've never met a conspiracy theory I didn't like. So this is a nice segue. Do you believe that the curriculum in the public school system is designed to produce conformant authoritarians? Do you think it's a methodical thing, or do you think that's just where our culture has ended up?
I think yeah, I think definitely the curriculum in the schools are designed to produce compliant people that go out and behave the way that the government wants them to behave, and pay taxes, and not really question authority, and just kind of go about their lives. That's yeah, definitely. You know, it's all about compliance and paying taxes and so on and so forth.
It's kind of like America is a big herd of animals, and you know, every once in a while the big line of government takes down another gazelle. But hey, you know, that guy's a little slower. He's towards the end of the line. You know, I'm still strong and spry. I can run towards the front of the pack. It's no big deal, you know.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that we we receive so much hostility, because we're not normal when we go out there and law enforcement encounters us. They're accustomed to people that are compliant. When they demand ID, people just give up their ID. When they ask them questions, they expect people to answer their questions. You know, if you're being polite, even if you're politely asserting your rights, like I try to do, it's the person is being non-cooperative or combative. Even I've been described as being combative when I go back and watch the video, and it's like, where was I being combative? And so that makes it harder. It makes it even harder for us to stand up for our individual rights, because so many other people just won't do it. So that makes it easier for them to demonize us and make us look like radical people. You know, I've been called a sovereign citizen, which I've never had any affiliation with the sovereign citizen movement. I don't have an opinion one way or the other about them. I've never been a part of it myself. You know, I'm on basically the fusion center of Florida. They placed me as a sovereign citizen who is a threat to law enforcement.
Yeah, I have the similar stuff going on. I have the Threat Fusion Center, the Joint Terrorism Task Force has determined, along with the Southern Poverty Law Center, they've designated my YouTube channel as a what is it? Potentially violent right wing. Now, this is funny. I'm an anarchist. I despise both wings of that fascist turkey. But I've been defined as a potentially violent right wing anti. What is it? Anti-government New World Order conspiracy type theory type person. That's basically how they characterize me. In 2008, the Southern Poverty Law Center published they do the potential groups that should be on a terrorist watch list, and the URL for my YouTube channel is there. And then during Eli Ritchie's, he's a fellow that cop watches out here recently. He was given a stalking protective order for asking our chief of police, Miss Danielle Outlaw, questions pertaining to her job on 2 different occasions. But I sat there in court and watched the head of Portland Police Bureau's Criminal Intelligence Unit, which they liaise with JTTF, and that's in our city documents. You can read that at portland.gov. So they interface with Joint Terrorism Task Force, and that guy got up there on the witness stand in front of the judge and explained to the judge and the few people witnessing that they are going through all the cop watchers' social media. He said all of them. And he explained that they're categorizing us according to various threat levels. So yeah. I don't know what number threat I am, but and honestly, it's creepy, but it's also flattering. If you're not on some sort of a terrorist watch list and you're an activist in the 21st century in America, you're not doing your job. I think that it's a badge of honor, and I'm proud that the feds are watching me. I think that's wonderful, considering I've never made an actual threat. I've never advocated for any sorts of violence. I've never been convicted of a violent crime, yet I have that, and not just me, everybody else who films the cops on a regular in Portland. There's bolos that go out, and they explained in court, okay, that they give command level officer reports. I think they're monthly, and the individual officers. So all the officers are getting intelligence briefs on me, like they're running a literal counterintelligence operation, and it's flattering and creepy at the same time. But honestly, Jeff, when I want to have a private conversation, I went and bought one of those lead bags that you transport film in. I put my phone in the lead bag, and I put my phone in my iPad, and then I stick my laptop computer in my bathtub, and then I have a private conversation in my living room.
Right. Yeah, I have no doubt that we're being surveilled. There's, you don't want to get too much into that because people will get scared off. But come on, they're listening to us a lot of times, but. In my situation, like you were talking about, the Joint Terrorism Task Forces and the Florida Fusion Center, the Department of Homeland Security sent out a bulletin to all law enforcement agencies in the state of Florida, sovereign citizen threat. And I was on there, and it had a picture of me, my driver's license, and it made 2 false statements on this. One of the things that it said was that I was arrested in Jacksonville after fighting with cops, and I was had a fake passport on me and a fake driver's license or something like that. This never happened. And wow. The other one said that I was a part of an arrest in St. Johns County, where the guy they falsely claimed that I was a passenger in a car, where a guy that was arrested had all kind of narcotics on, methamphetamine, all kind of other stuff, and a bunch of weapons. And what the situation with that was, I was there. But what I was doing is I was standing down the road, cop watching, filming what was going on. But somehow in the official report, I went from a guy standing, 100 feet away across 4 lanes of traffic, filming the traffic stop and the search and the arrest, to being a passenger in a vehicle. And that's not accidental. That's intentional. And next thing you know, this is being distributed to every single law enforcement agency in the state of Florida. So now all these cops that don't even know who I am automatically think that I'm a guy who fights law enforcement, who goes around with people who have drugs and weapons in their vehicle.
So that's what they read in their car when they, you know, they take your driver's license. If you're pulled over hypothetically, you know, and they have a reason to get your ID, and then they pull it up in the car, it's going to say all this stuff about, you know, drugs and fighting with cops and yada yada yada. That could definitely get you killed. You know,
Oh, yeah. That's one of the reasons I don't do the Second Amendment open carry audits anymore. I quit doing that.
You know, honestly, I think your camera is way more dangerous. I think that, you know, some well-placed words, you know, physical resistance against government, and this is just how I feel about it. It's ridiculous. All you're going to do is get, at this point, you know, all you're going to do is get labeled as a crazy terrorist whack job, and you're going to be dead. But if you can resist with ideas, ideas can't be destroyed. They can't be killed. You know, and everything we say and do on the internet, it's not going anywhere. You know, long after Bunny Boots and Jeff Gray and Mike Bluehair and all of us are dead and gone, all of our ideas and all of our, you know, activism will still be on the web, and it will still be in the realm of the marketplace of ideas. You know, so I think our cameras, our drive, our willingness to resist this 21st tyranny, our 21st century tyranny, is way more valuable than any kind of, you know, dust ups with the government or whatnot. Like, you know, I have a lot of respect for the folks that stood up and took over the Malheur Wildlife Refuge for reasons of trying to bring about an understanding of how the federal government is, you know, usurping property rights, and how they wanted the states to have more control over their own land as opposed to the federal government, you know, taking over all the land use rights. But and I have respect for their tactic, but it's just not mine. You know, I went out there with those folks, and I you know, tried to, you know, give people an idea of what was actually happening there, because I saw the media, both right and left, just crucifying them, you know. And what happened at Bunkerville the first time when the Bundy's family's cows were being taken, and there's video footage of them shooting their cows, you know, and messing with their livelihood. And a lot of people don't understand that, you know, yeah, they were open carrying, and they said that if they were attacked by the government, that they would defend themselves. But, you know, the whole way that those folks were characterized was just so different than the actual reality of it that I found it just hard to believe.
Well, there was, are you familiar with who William Grigg is?
William Brigg? No, please do educate me in the audience.
He's a really good modern writer. He just died recently, but he did a really good story on a guy who was, who the local government just took everything from this poor guy. They took his land, they took everything from him, and it was a complete retaliatory case. And the guy finally couldn't take it anymore, and he went down to the courthouse, and I think he was shooting at the courthouse. But of course, you know, the media just portrayed him as a crazy lunatic who, right-wing, lunatic who just went down and shot the place up. But William Grigg was very courageous. He had the blog that was called Pro Libertate, or Pro Libertate. That's what it was called, Pro Libertate. And he did a really, really good in-depth investigative story on this guy that was just pushed and pushed and pushed to the point of where he just didn't care. They took everything from this poor guy, and you know. So at least you know you're right about the media just kind of not really doing good investigative reporting, the mainstream media. But then there's the good alternative media people out there that go out and report what's really happening. So that's pretty interesting. I like how you went out to you put yourself right out there in the middle of the Dakota Access Pipeline, and you were out there covering what you were just talking about. That's something that I would never do. I would never go out and put myself at risk like that. And I have great admiration for you for doing that.
Well, thank you, sir. I don't know that this. I feel emotionally driven to do what I do. Like at some point, it's beyond me, and the concept of liberty, the concept of one of the primary reasons why I went out to Standing Rock. It's funny. Like a lot of people are thinking, you know, a lot of my leftist friends or anarchist friends were thinking that it was because I want to protect the environment. And yeah, sure, the environment's important to me. And you know, this whole thing about CO2 and like, anthropogenic global warming, I think that's all brainwashing, but whatever. I mean, my reason for going out there was simply this.
Oh, I can't believe you just said that. Oh my God. Oh, no, you actually question the global warming nonsense that's going on out there. You know, the whole, believe us or we'll say that you're a knuckle dragging Neanderthal, and we're going to control the temperature of the earth within 2 degrees. And all you have to do is give us more of your money or let us control more of what you do. Yeah, that's great.
Oh,
I believe that. Sure.
oh yeah, like would I sign up to have my entire life micromanaged by a bunch of technocratic elites that want to dole out my bowl of gruel like in that movie Zeitgeist Addendum. I mean, wow. But anywho,
and it's not even just your normal elitists. It's a global cartel that will be taking in hundreds and hundreds, if not trillions of dollars that have absolutely no transparency, no accountability. Yep. But they're going to control the temperature of the globe within a 2 degree radius.
That's
you just give them enough money. Yeah. Sure, I believe that.
I'm gonna wait in line to give them my money. Really, when those people knock on my door about with the little clipboard with the windmill on it, I look at them and laugh and slam the door. I mean, I'm nicer to Mormons. Like I'll invite Mormons back to my house 3 times because I think it's fascinating. I don't talk to them too much about the Mormon religion, but I'm interested in their cultural migration to the West. So I seize upon that as an opportunity to just sit and talk with them, and like I make them tea, bring them in the house, ask them if they want food, and I talk to them about the history of their interaction with the various people, like the native folks and the other other migrants that was settling the West. But anywho, but those guys that come back with the global warming religion, I'll cuss them out sometimes. I'll tell them to F off. I'll slam the door on them. Once those loud air horns that people use when they're sailing.
Yeah.
Like I opened the door and blasted one of them in the face with the air horn once. Like I don't know. I'm mean to those guys. But let me get back to why I went out to Malheur, or not Malheur, sorry, but the Dakota Access Pipeline. Is because if you look at the Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution, it says that all treaties have to be honored, and no judge or legislator can change treaties. Okay, to date, there is not one treaty that we, as the U.S. government, has signed with Native folks that we have fully honored. Not one single treaty. Okay, the land that was being disputed over the Dakota Access Pipeline in the original treaty, I forget which one. It's not the Fort Laramie Treaty. It's the one before that. But because it's been so long since that happened. But the original treaty stated that it was on something called unceded treaty land. And in order for the Army Corps of Engineers or anybody or an oil company or eminent domain to seize any of that property, they were supposed to get a majority vote from all the adult males in the population to get any of that done. And the federal government did not do any of these things. So by all rights, okay, the reason why, it wasn't the welfare state that we gave. That's not the reason, it's not altruism. It's why we gave, the Black Hills and all that territory to the Sioux people. It's because we lost in military conflict with them. The 9th Cavalry got its ASS handed to them, and they came to a negotiation table and sued for them. And we agreed to give them the Black Hills, the mountains, because that's where the Sioux believed that they came from. They believe that their creation story, they believe that they came from a cave. Yeah, you still there, Jeff?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, good. Their creation story, they believe they came from a cave, like their first people came from underneath the ground, and it's kind of like where they were birthed from, under the Black Hills. Now when they discovered gold there, then all of a sudden, we stole that from them. Also, we agreed to give them state-of-the-art medical care. right?
Right.
If they would stop killing us, they basically won a war for that territory, and it was given. But like, that was my issue. It was as a police accountability activist, as a government watchdog, I'm sitting there going, oh, hell no. By U.S. law, and that all these soldiers that went there to oppress and attack those people swore oaths to protect and defend, they have every right to do whatever they wanted to there. And honestly, when they were running in the media the images of the burnt construction equipment, I was like, I would have did that. If a communist China invades the Pacific coast of the United States, hypothetically, I'm going to see what I can do to destroy their equipment, hypothetically speaking. All they were doing was defending themselves, and people were saying they were lawless and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But that was my issue, is that it was their property. It was a property rights issue. And one of the funny things that I found that was not really discussed on the mainstream right or the left is that when I talked to a lot of folks that occupied Malheur, the right-wing folks, they were very pro defending the property rights of the Native American folks. Just nobody would allow them a place at the dialogue. No one on the left would allow them to speak and to say, hey, we're in solidarity with you. We respect the fact that the Native folks, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, are having their property rights usurped. Right. But that dichotomy is how they're going to make all of us weaker, is by making that derision.
Yeah.
Divided.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's causing the echo. Give me a second here.
I can't hear an echo. Well, I want to,
echo.
Okay. We kind of drifted away.
Do an evil laugh. If you got an echo, it's time to do an evil laugh.
I maybe it was from your phone and it finally canceled it out. I have no idea.
Maybe so.
Jeff,
it's gone now.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
So, do you have anything, buddy?
I was just gonna hop in here. We're about 10 minutes short of the hour, and I just wanted to state out loud that if people have questions, get them ready. We'll field a few questions from the audience, of course. So, here in a little bit, I figured we can do that at the hour mark. There is field some questions from the audience.
Gravy.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to talk to some folks.
So just quickly, and until we get to the top of the hour or whatnot. So when you actually go out, so you've done your research, you've researched where the public property is, your limits and your boundaries of where you can go and film. What's your style, like your attitude when you go through the audit, like for people that want to emulate what you're doing?
Well, I try to, despite my experiences, I try to treat every person that approaches me as, I don't know who they are, how they're going to react. So I give them the benefit of the doubt. They could be, I think out of my top five most viewed videos, I think 3 of them are positive encounters with law enforcement officers or public employees. So I always try to be polite. And I always try, I'm always peaceful. I always try to be polite and give the people the benefit of the doubt. But of course, you have to be ready. I try to have an actual reason to be there. Now, when I'm doing my civil rights investigations, now one of my things that I like to do is go to a law enforcement facility and film the law enforcement officers coming in and out of the facility to see if they're wearing their seatbelts. I call it a citizen seatbelt audit, or click it or ticket, citizen seatbelt, click it or ticket. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little lost, but what I learned from my friend Joel Chandler, to kind of what I try to do is I try to act like a jury is following me around, scrutinizing every move that I make, or every decision that I do, and every word that I say. I try to act like they're there, because you, like I was saying earlier, you're putting yourself at risk when you go out there. There's a very high probability that you're going to get arrested. Most law enforcement officers, unfortunately, are either ignorant of the law or willfully don't care about the law. So you have to prepare yourself. You have to be cool. You have to be calm, so that if you do get arrested, it's the most important thing is first of all that you have to get the charges dropped against you. You don't want to actually have to fight anything in court. You want to be absolutely 100% lawful and in the right when you go out there when you get arrested. So, I don't want to be yelling at the cops. I don't want to be inciting them. I want to let them do what they're going to do and document it, because my point of being there is to investigate whether or not they're going to respect our rights to, first it starts off as our right to document and film what they're doing. And then as it goes along, are they going to respect our right to remain silent? Are they going to respect our right not to have to produce ID? Are they going to respect our right to be free to go about what we're doing and not detain us unlawfully without any reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime is afoot? And unfortunately, just about the majority of the encounters wind up with an unlawful detention with no reasonable articulable suspicion that there's a crime afoot. The cops claiming that, just because they've contacted you, that you have to have ID on you. You have to give it to them whenever a law enforcement officer asks you for ID, you have to give it to them, which everybody knows is not true. So you just have to be prepared and stay calm and stay focused when all this happens. And I don't like to argue with them. If they're saying something that's not correct, I'm not the type of person that's going to be yelling at them and saying, I'm going to hit you with a 1983 Class C lawsuit. I'm not going to be, oh no, you're wrong. It's you cannot detain me without reasonable articulable suspicion. If they're, I like to get them to repeat what they're saying. So if they're saying, if a cop comes up to me and says, it's illegal to film this facility, I'll respond to that by saying, so let me make sure I get this straight and understand what you're saying. You're telling me that it's unlawful to film that building from this public sidewalk? I try to get them to confirm what they're saying. I'm there to investigate, not to argue with them or threaten them or anything like that. I'm there just to document what they're saying and try to get out of there without being arrested.
Well, I have to give credit where credit is due, because you are in process of multiple lawsuits, and from the outside in looking at what's going on, you have a really great chance of prevailing.
Right. And that's another thing. You first of all, if you get arrested, you don't want the charges to stick. That's just my philosophy. I want to make sure that if I do wind up getting arrested, that it was definitely an unlawful arrest, that I didn't do anything to cause arrest or have any charges stick against me. And then if it's a bad enough situation, if you do get arrested, if you do bring a civil lawsuit against them to enforce your civil rights, and that's the whole point of doing a civil lawsuit, is to enforce your civil rights and hopefully establish that these cops can't just get away with this. They can't just do this whenever they feel like it. They can't just go out there and arrest people and say, well, you can beat the charges, but you can't beat the right, is one of the favorite things I like to say. I want to establish that they are at risk when they violate people's rights. They are at risk when they put you in jail just because they are angry with you and you hurt their feelings, or you're not in compliance with their ego. So that's part of what I want to establish, and that's part of enforcing our rights and making sure that these cops respect our rights to document what they're doing and film what they're doing. And
that's really great information, and I'm just awesome. It's awesome to hear that you're so concise on how enabled to explain your modus operandi. I have to do some quick shout outs to people in the chat. First of all, I have to tell people that I am sorry, but I'm on a laptop and I have a really small screen, so I will give shout outs to people that said hi in the chat. King9 will not return. Thank you as always, man. Your support means the world to me. let's see here. Justin, Antitheist, he's another guy that does some really great work on the internet, and he had some stuff to say. When I was talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center defining me as a potential violent right-wing group, Justin, it's this weird thing. Like SPL will go after people on both the left and the right and label them as potentially a terrorist, and it's odd and scary at the same time, because the FBI actually goes off of what SPL says quite a bit more often than not. What else is Justin saying? Keith of Patriot War Area Media was interviewed by the FBI the other day. Apparently, the FBI is watching people who show up to film Antifa rallies. They didn't care that Keith was beaten badly. Here's my thoughts, Justin. I know you're, and rightly so. I think that I know you're very anti-Antifa in the area that you live in. You're in California. You're right by Berkeley, by any means necessary. And a lot of the Antifa folks that come out of Oakland, California, are more of the militant ilk. They're more willing than Antifa groups in other places to engage in violence. So I understand, Justin, your reactions to these things. But I have to tell you that my thoughts is that the alt-right and Antifa are being honeypotted against one another. I believe the government is surveilling both groups, and they're going to swoop in and usurp or use the actions of both these groups when there's violence to have another thing that they can establish more oppressive legislation with and deny all of us our liberties. So I believe that they're being honeypotted, and that's probably why, they didn't care about Keith being beaten. They care more about data collection and seeing who that they could charge later at this point in the game. And I find it really disheartening that the right and the left are being pulled apart, and balkanization and counterinsurgency. If you do any deep research into the deep state and how our government actually works, they want us fighting amongst ourselves right and left. But Justin, I would love to talk to you on my radio show here and have in-depth conversations with you, because I have a very unique perspective. Being an anarchist, but I have this reputation for being an ardent defender of everyone's civil liberties. I think it'd be great for us to actually just have that conversation.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, just getting your heads up. We are at the top of the hour, so. All
right. So, questions for Jeff from the audience?
I'm actually gonna put it out there. Hey, if you guys got questions, I got both Mike Bluehair's chat box open. I have my chat box open on all of my on all of my platforms I stream to, and the Discord server chat is open for receiving questions if you have any. But I might as well go ahead and throw one out there while we wait for the questions to start pouring in.
Okay, I'm going to run to the bathroom, so okay. I hope it's directed at Mr. Gray.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add real fast, Jeff, there?
No, it's just if anybody's got questions, I'd love to talk to them and see if I can answer your questions. It'd be great.
Okay, well, it looks like we've got a few popping in right now. So how do you determine when it's time to actually do a records request if you're doing an audit?
How do I determine when to do an audit? Well, one of the things I like to see is if I've been to a location, say a law enforcement agency, and I've done an audit, I'd like to see what they say after, what they said about me doing it. How do they react to it? So I'll do a public records request. For example, I will ask for all emails that contain my name to see if they are. What I'm hoping that they're going to do is they're going to send emails amongst each other to say, hey, look, we don't like this guy or whatever, but he has a right to be out here to do this. And we want to make sure that if we see him filming, that everybody knows that he has a right to film and not to interfere or threaten or arrest him. Hopefully that's what's being said. But unfortunately, most of the time, it's not that's what's being said. It's basically them trying to figure out how they can get you. So, my goal is to educate both the public and public employees that we have a right to film. And I guess I was naive when I first started that they would say, "Oh, look, he has a right to do this," But unfortunately, a lot of times the communications that they send amongst each other don't reflect that. It shows that they just try to figure out basically what can we do to make him stop instead of respecting it. So that's one of the things I like to do. If I've been to a place where I've conducted a civil rights investigation, I like to later on ask for emails, communications that contain my name, my YouTube channel's name, Honor Your Oath, or Photography is Not a Crime, since I'm a part of Photography is Not a Crime, to see what they've been saying. It's pretty interesting. I recommend that other folks do that. Use your right to know, exercise your right to know, make public records requests. That's really interesting. And then a lot of times what it'll do is it opens up other little things. You're seeing a communication where they've shared your video, or they've used your video as a briefing in a law enforcement agency, or so you start making requests for the log of that meeting to see who was there to watch the video and things like that. It's pretty interesting. Public records is a really interesting way to get into. It's part of what we do.
Yeah, that question was from News Now Tennessee. I'm filled another question from Aiden Umferson. Asked Jeff what his most unlawful arrest, or what arrest bothered him the most. And he states that he believes your BCSO task force arrest or Orlando PD. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a question or not, because they didn't add a punctuation at the end of that.
So who was that again?
That was Aiden Umferson. That's from Mike Bluehair's channel.
Okay, I kind of agree with you. I didn't if that's how you pronounce your name. Hopefully I'm doing it right. But the Bradford County Sheriff's Office arrest was that one was the most upsetting to me, because it was a situation where I was on my way back from Miami, where I had just met with Carlos Miller, where he officially made me a part of Photography is Not a Crime. He made me the editor at the time. But I was just officially a part of Photography is Not a Crime, and we just got off that exit, I think, on the way back to Jacksonville from Miami, and I saw this traffic stop, and I just wanted to film the traffic stop to get some B-roll footage and basically go home. And these guys were they were real jerks. They were threatening to I guess what really upset me the most about that arrest was they were threatening to arrest my wife as well. They were threatening to put my daughter in juvenile hall, and just being really, really nasty. Those two task force agents, Brian Stoll and Ben Erskine, but specifically Brian Stoll. He was a real jackass, and currently involved in a lawsuit with them, suing them over that arrest.
Oh, it looks like you've been busy while you haven't really been active on YouTube then.
Right.
Okay, another question from News Now Tennessee. This is actually a continuation from his other one. I didn't realize it was actually, he didn't ran out of spots. I had an agency get upset about out on the radio that they thought they recognized me and followed me, but they thought I got into a different vehicle, and they stopped that vehicle. Good case to put records, and that's in reference to his follow-up to his first question.
Okay, so what is the question there? They
basically
followed another vehicle and stopped it because they thought it was him?
Yeah, and he's wondering if that's a good time to go and look up the records for that case incident.
Yeah, what I would do is I would ask for the following things. I would ask for the radio traffic related to that arrest or that traffic stop. I would ask for the CAD reports, and that's the computer communications, whatever they had on the computer communications, the radio traffic, and any written reports to find out just more information about what happened. They shouldn't be stopping somebody anyway. If all he was doing was filming in public, they shouldn't be stopping anybody. So that would be interesting. I'd ask for the radio traffic, any written reports, and any computer terminal transmissions that they sent. That would be their laptop computers in their car.
I never thought about asking for transmissions from the laptop, but yeah, that's actually a smart idea.
And I'm making all these suggestions based on the public records law in Florida, which is we have a really good public records law, but in actual practice, a lot of times, these agencies, they just don't comply, they just don't care. what are you going to do? Sue them? And so you have to sue them. And then when you sue them, what they do is they call you a serial litigator, and try to make you out to be the bad guy, but that's just par for the course.
Yeah, there's this term called paper terrorist, where they're actually trying to get into that a little bit, Jeff, because they're actually trying to say that people that bother to sue them when they usurp their rights are somehow engaging in criminal terrorist activity for taking it to the courts.
Yeah, they try to call you a scam artist. You know, that's what they've called me. They've called me a scam artist. They've called me a serial litigator. They claim that I intentionally tricked them into breaking the law, set them up. It's guerrilla tactics. They just claim all kind of nonsense. It's the same thing as, you know, a kid getting their hand caught in the cookie jar, for lack of a better comparison, you know, and then blaming it on their parents for making the cookies in the first place. But you know, that's just part of what they do. If you're going to play this game, then that's part of the game that you got to play and put up with and tolerate. So yeah. So that's the records I would ask for. You know, radio traffic, terminal transmissions from the computer, and any written reports. Oh, and any email communications regarding the incident. Email communications. So any email communications with your name, Ian, from News Now Tennessee, right, David?
Yeah, that was from that question was from News Now Tennessee.
All right, so any you know, News Now Tennessee, any email communications with News Now Tennessee, your name, Ian, what, you know, your actual name, or any other kind of things that you think that they would be communicating each other about in emails. It's really interesting to find out what they're saying.
Yeah. Another one from Aiden Umperson asked Jeff about his famous Sergeant Gunther video. I think it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Staff Sergeant Guthrie.
Yeah,
that was in Valdosta, Georgia. I had the Epic guy with me, Thomas. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I really enjoyed that experience, interacting with Staff Sergeant Guthrie, who later became Lieutenant Guthrie. He passed away a couple of years ago. But I was conducting a civil rights investigation at the Air Force Base there in Valdosta, Georgia. I think it's Moody Air Force Base. I was taking pictures. One of the things that these military bases like to do is they will put static displays of military hardware, aircraft, tanks, missiles, and things like that right at the front, in the front gate. It's there for the purpose of the public to look at, take pictures of. But as soon as you take pictures of it, they here comes the Department of Defense police or the military police out there. Basically, you know, par for the course. What you usually hear, there's terrorism. You know, there's terrorists behind every corner. You could be surveilling us for an attack and all this other nonsense. But that was the interaction I had with them, the Department of Defense police. So they called the local sheriff's department. I think it's the Lowndes County Sheriff's Department. Staff Sergeant Guthrie showed up. He just wanted to know what was going on, and this is why I always am polite. I shook his hand and introduced myself as Jeff, and I never get my last name. And I always tell them, you know, I'm here gathering content for a story, gathering information about what public officials do on public property, and from the public sidewalk. And Staff Sergeant, I said they have a problem with it. They told me I couldn't do it. And Staff Sergeant Guthrie said, well, they need to go back and learn the Constitution, then, don't they? I believe that was exactly what he said. I believe I'm quoting him exactly. And that was just a wonderful experience. And that video, when I published it, it went pretty viral. It was I think it's one of my top 3 or 4 most viewed videos. And you know, I just didn't use my magic mind control powers on that guy, Mike and David, in that situation, like the cops claim that I do, and trick them into behaving badly.
Behaving badly.
Right. This is Staff Sergeant Guthrie. You know, of course, you know, he was just a really good guy. He was what I hope to encounter in law enforcement, and what I hope what we do will guide law enforcement more into being as people who respect our rights. You know, so what? He's taking a photograph. He's filming what you're doing. Get over it. It's his right. When you became a public employee and you started taking taxpayer dollars in your paycheck, you consented to being monitored and people have a right to know what you're doing on their behalf and at their expense. So that's the way it should be, and hopefully what we're doing will guide it more towards that instead of all this stuff about nonsense about you could be a terrorist. It's a pretty convenient alibi for public employees and law enforcement to use. You know, when they don't want somebody seeing what they're doing, they can just, you know, throw the terrorism alibi out there. Well, you could be a terrorist. You could be a terrorist. Come on, people. This whole thing needs to turn back towards liberty and individual rights.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I just wanted to say that, you know, I love where this conversation is going, and this is precisely why I wanted to do the show in this format. It's because, you know, people that wanted to interact with Jeff or ask questions, you know, and learn how to do his particular brand of, you know, First Amendment investigations or civil rights investigations, that information could get out there. And I'm just, you know, I'm tickled. This is awesome. I'm looking forward to getting Gavin Simon if he's still interested. I need to get back with him.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Gavin's cool.
Yeah. Continuing on with some more questions. Let's see. Give me a second here. I just had that window open. I don't know if you will actually have this an answer to this question, but it's by Chinatown Bus. Why does the supremacy clause not apply to the 2010 DHS memo?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that one either, specifically on that one. I don't think we're able to answer that one right off the back. I would probably have to look more information up on that if I can remember to do that. Chinatown Bus, so maybe you're gonna have to shoot me like a message or email, something like that, and I'll try to remember it, but I'm busy as usual too, so I dropped the ball on quite a few things. Let's see here. Jumping back over to Mike Bluehair's chat. D. Vincent W. I've done audits in the DC area and want to know, aside from having 2 or 3 cameras, is it always imperative to let someone know you're going to and doing an audit, especially if you don't have a partner?
You want me to answer that, or Mike?
You answer that. These are most of these questions should be for you.
Yeah, they're supposed to be directed at Jeff. So.
Okay. Yeah, I absolutely. I think so. You know, if you have friends on Facebook, I'm pretty blessed to have guys like Mike Bluehair and David Berner and David Warden and Philip Turner and the whole, you know, crew that, you know, we kind of have our chat rooms on Photography is Not a Crime and Black Coat Media and all these other places. You definitely want to let people know. First person I let know is my wife. I learned that lesson a long time ago. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be conducting a civil rights investigation at this location. It's in such and such county. The county jail is this such and such county. The police station is this type of police station. And, you know, let your friends and let people on social media know that you're going to be there, and give them a check back in time too. If you don't hear from me by this time, assume that I've been arrested, and check with this county jail or this police station. And yeah, you definitely want to protect yourself when you go out there. I recommend going with a partner. It's got to be a well-behaved partner. Only one person should talk at a time. One person should be out of sight. This is what Thomas was, the Epic Old guy, was really good at doing. He was good at staying out of sight and filming from a distance. And I don't think it was any kind of coincidence that most of the times I got arrested every time I got arrested was when he was not with me. I don't think that's a coincidence. And you should also be live streaming. You should be live streaming from some sort of device to some sort of live streaming network where your video or your audio can be preserved offline, where the law enforcement cannot get into your phone and delete it, or your cameras and delete it. You should always have your on your phone. You should always have your passcode activated. And you definitely need to protect yourself, because your video or your recording is what's going to protect you from it being a situation where it's your word against their word. So yeah, you definitely want to live stream. You definitely want to let people know that you're going out. And, protect yourself, because you're putting yourself at risk. There's no doubt about it. You definitely put yourself at risk.
Yeah, and to add on to this, there's a big reason why I harp on a lot of people to learn the new tech. Don't depend on just simple, easy stuff. With what I use for Streamlabs, that literally, I mean, once you're almost all programs that are used to live stream that are out on the market, they will shut down the live stream as soon as you turn off the screen or go to a screen lock situation. Where with like Streamlabs, and there's another program which I need to do a video on that I've discovered, you turn off the screen or you screen lock, it'll continue live streaming, which can be very important for a situation where if you're hemmed up and you no longer have access to your cell phone, it'll continue recording while it's turned off. I mean, while that's turned. Go ahead.
I have a useful tool that other auditors and cop watchers can use as well. There's something in your settings on iPhone, on all iPhone iOS devices, even iPads and stuff. There's something called guided access, and it's for it's to help people that have physical handicaps, so they don't mess up by hitting the buttons. But you can enable guided access, and you draw a box around the part of the phone that you want to disable. So you can draw a box around the entire screen, and it takes a 4-digit code to 4 or 6, or you can configure it, but it takes a numerical code to make the phone do anything else. And what I mean by that is the power will not go off, the camera at whatever orientation when you started guided access won't go off, and it's going to keep recording until the battery goes dead. And yeah, guided access is really awesome, and you can preset it to shut down all the functions of your phone and make sure that everything is, well, it actually makes sure that everything is running no matter what. All you have to do is hit the home button 3 times, and then your phone will keep recording until the battery runs dead. And they can't turn the phone off. The power button won't work. So it's a really great tool as well. It's called Guided Access, and you can access it on any iPhone right from settings.
Well, I didn't know that. That's new to me. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'll show you, Jeff, later. I'll send you a text to how to turn it on. I'll send you a little YouTube video about it, all right? When the show...
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me make a quick response. I've been here. These questions are for mainly for Jeff. Hit me up on one of my own live streams, or hit me up on like maybe the next SNC, and I might be able to answer that one for you. Let's see here. Another one for Jeff coming from Akaraz Kazenti. Does anarchy and civil rights contradict each other?
Well, I have to get into this one because it's not really Jeff's thing. Here's the thing, right? When you look in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the differences between the definition of the word anarchy and anarchism. Anarchy means a state of lawlessness without government. Anarchism means a philosophy of individual rights and liberties that can't be trumped by government. So anarchism, okay, for the audience or people that don't know, anarchism in the nutshell is basically the idea that you're advocating for individual liberty that trumps government. No gods, no masters, no slaves. It's the idea that people know how to act and live a moral life, and they don't need government to squat on top of them to use the threat or actual physical force constantly to prod us along as if we were animals on a tax farm. So the Wikipedia page is a really great place for people to start with anarchist theory. Okay, just read through the various derivations of anarchism, and you'll come to understand that it's a political philosophy of individual liberty and freedom. Anarchists don't want to throw bricks and burn stuff down. I mean, sometimes we might feel like that, and sometimes anarchists may be throwing bricks, but if you push anybody of any political affiliation to the breaking point to where they feel like they have no other means or outlet of expressing themselves, they're going to pick up a brick. I mean, our constitutional republic that we sort of have in name only in this country now was founded off of people shaking off government.
Hey, Mike. Okay, I'm going to cut you off here because there's
fine.
quite a few questions stacked up here, and
great.
that was actually meant for Honor Your Oath, not you. You get plenty of time on the air to sit here and spout your stuff. Jeff, do you want to go ahead and add to that?
He just said the word anarchy. It triggered me.
Right. I think Mike was answering that because you know, I'm not an anarchist. I don't consider myself an anarchist. I'm a libertarian. I believe in extremely limited government. Just to be clear on that. I don't have anything against anarchists. You know, I'm myself. I'm a libertarian. Limited government. Basically, my philosophy is, I'll keep my nose out of your business and my hands out of your wallet if you'll do the same for me. That's basically what.
And I accidentally skipped over Seb's question. Is there an SJCSD obstruction update? I'm guessing that that might be the school district.
Oh, St. Johns County School District obstruction update. Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm still doing some public records requests. I think basically they've lied to me. I believe personally that they've intentionally tried to obstruct my access to the records that I've asked for because it's about sexual misconduct about employees. They're playing semantics. So I'm continuing to nail that down through public records requests, and it's an ongoing thing right now. I don't have it complete. There should be an update coming within the next 3 or 4 weeks to that story.
Oh, cool. I'm pretty sure people will be wanting to hear about some updates because you haven't really been too active on YouTube, so.
Right.
Yeah, and then give me a second here. There was another one from Mike's channel here. Where was it? Going through, there's some banter here. Aiden Umperson has another question. Ask Jeff what he's got planned in the future, or what videos is he working on?
Well, I've been talking with Carlos Miller with Photography is Not a Crime. PNAC has kind of gone through some really hard times lately, and we're moving in a different direction, and I'm honored that Carlos is continuing to work with me on that. I can't go into any real detail about it right now until Carlos is ready to announce the details about where PNAC is going, but I plan on getting back out there. I lost my good friend Thomas. He was my wingman. He's my research guru. That's what he called himself, and I was happy to call him that as well. So it's been some hard times lately. Some litigation that's been going on that's really tied up a lot of my time. I still work as a professional truck driver. I'm basically working from. Matter of fact, I got to get to bed here in pretty soon, but I'm gonna stay with you guys because I get up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and usually when I go to work, I'm working 14 hours every day that I work. But anyway, I'm gonna get back out there. I'm gonna head out west just to get the people out in Panama City and Panama City Beach. I'm gonna be going out there and doing some civil rights investigations out in that area. So I'm giving you guys a heads up out there in Panama City Beach for whoever's listening to this and spying on us. I'm going to do some more of the seatbelts, some more click it or ticket seatbelts, safety investigations, and more of my normal stuff, my open government investigations, my civil rights investigations, and public safety investigations.
All right, we got another one from NJ Diver. Yes, I said diver this time, like I did last time, so you can't get on me too badly for that. Other than a gag order, why is everyone so resonant on publishing a decision? I'm not sure what that's in reference to.
Well, I think what's going on there is a lot of times, really, I can't really talk about any specific city where I have sued them for violating my civil rights to enforce my civil rights. But what they'll do when they want to settle is they want you to accept a what's the word for it?
Non-disclosure agreement.
Non-disclosure agreement, not a gag order, but a non-disclosure agreement. But here's the thing: when you settle with a municipality and you sign a non-disclosure agreement, it's all public record. So if you want to find out if I sued the city of Orlando, and there was a non-disclosure agreement. All you have to do is go do a public records request for any kind of a lawsuit between Jeff Gray and the city of Orlando, and you would find out, because it's public record. They can't withhold it. I just can't talk about it personally.
Yeah, I think in all honesty, they just want to prevent you from being able to specifically speak out and say, I have this victory or whatever kind of thing. They're just trying to minimize it from the source, more or less, well, from the source of where it all came from. And it reduces the amount of bad PR the police department, the city itself will take, or the county or state government.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You're gonna love this one. Ed Hartgrove asked Jeff if it's legal to provide your information (ID) in a foreign language.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. One of the things that I was wanting to do is learn sign language, and use sign language whenever I have an encounter. Just start signing at them, and I think that would be great. Yeah. Sure, give it to them in a foreign language. Yeah, I just recommend not giving it to them at all. But that would be, that would be funny. That would be a pretty clever thing to do, or to use sign language or something like that. That would be funny.
Yeah.
Have a little fun.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here's another little accurate one. I don't even know how accurate this is. Seb asks, Jeff's YouTube channel communicates in the third person as per Jeff Gray. I'm guessing because you just say honor your oath kind of thing. It sounds like you're talking in third person.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. I guess I am. I've never really thought much about that. I guess I don't have a staff or anything like that. I try to get my wife to narrate one video, which she did, and people really liked it. She has a great voice, but she just wants to stay out of it, and just, she's been really supportive and really great, but she doesn't really want to get too involved in it. But I don't really have a staff or people that I can use as narrators or anything like that. I basically have to do it myself. So I guess without really thinking about it, I do it third person. That's funny.
Okay, here's another good one. Eric, it's either Machalik or Machalik. The videos where you blast the PSA about buckling up to the cops, will you make a video with cops on cell phones?
Yeah, if I can get it on video, absolutely. You see the law enforcement officers going down the road all the time looking at their laptops, typing on their laptops. But the thing about it is when the state of Florida is kind of behind on the whole prohibiting cell phones and texting and driving. They just started doing that within the last few years. At first, it became a secondary offense. So if a cop saw you texting, they couldn't just pull you over. But if you were texting and speeding, they could pull you over speeding and then give you a ticket for texting. But anyway, I'm trying to get to the point. What they did when they passed the law is they excluded law enforcement.
Oh, so they put in an exclusion for law enforcement.
Yeah, they sure did. If I understand correctly, they did. They excluded law enforcement. So law enforcement, they can text and drive. They can be on their laptops and not have to worry about it.
It's the same thing in Oregon where we are, Bunny. They have exclusions. They usually have to do with a lot of them are when the cop sirens or lights are on, the exclusions kick in. But yeah, it's kind of,
yeah, it's janky.
Blue ISIS going on,
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna hit over.
And it's not like they really needed to exclude themselves, because they do it and they don't get any repercussions from it anyway, because they already got the thin blue line, so they don't have to really worry about it. But it's just an extra little cherry on top to get it actually in law that they're excluded.
Yeah, okay, I'm filling the question from Twitch. Spartan G087, who is actually also from the subreddit Am I Free to Go, ask, Honor Your Oath, what is his favorite auditors? Does he watch anyone?
Oh, well, of course, my favorite auditors are Mike Bluehair and Bunny Boots.
Are you just saying that? Of course you are.
Well, Mike, you don't really do audits anyway, but my favorite guy out there is definitely Philip Turner. Philip Turner's. I think he does it right. I think he's really good at keeping us cool and keeping us calm. And he's done something that I was hoping to do is establish case law, which is part of my goal, is to make sure that our right to record is respected. But he actually established case law in his area. Turner versus Driver, right, David?
Yeah, Turner v. Driver.
Yep.
And that's the Smith versus Cumming, what I always quote in my area, which is covered under the 11th Judicial Circuit Federal Court of Appeals. There was nothing like that in his area, and now he has his name on a law that affirms, it didn't create it, or it just affirms our right to record public employees. There was some little problems with it. I think it gave them the right to detain you or something like that. But anyway, the Batusai, I guess is how you say it, Philip Turner. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that I really like Sean Randall Thomas up in New York, right?
Oh yeah, I love his work, especially with the recent stuff that he's done with the whole vaping versus smoking, and of course the what was it, the iced tea in the paper bag thing was always a good kicker for me. In fact, me and News Now Houston did a similar thing over in Houston with over at the transit station.
And I like David. News Now Houston, I definitely like David. I really like Daniel Salmon, Mistaken Bacon. Really like him. So there's quite a few guys out there that I like.
Yeah. And I
like you, Dave. I like Money Boots. I love the way you do everything. There's a lot of good guys out there. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of provide that unique one with the whole silent treatment, sort of makes me stand out quite a bit. So.
Yeah, well, that one where you were at the Air Force Base and they were following you, you were hiding in the woods.
Oh yeah, that was always a good.
That was like Blair Witch Project stuff. There, it was so funny. You should do a version with like X-Files music. Like.
If I can license the music, yeah, I will do that. Or if I find some creepy one, I might revisit some of the old ones. I was actually going for the whole creepy I'm being stalked kind of thing when I did the edit and the pause kind of thing.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about Philip Turner earlier, and I just have to throw in here for a second. Yeah, it is amazing, the whole Turner versus Driver thing. But I think the first thing the first two things that Philip did that really impressed me is because I've been in a lot of really hairy, violent protest type situations. I've had weapons literally aimed at me. There was one scene where one of Philip's videos where there's a shooting on 6th Street. And, this the aftermath of a shooting. There's people screaming. Everybody's cowering down. There's a few people standing up and law enforcement skulking around, aiming weapons, trying to find the shooter. And Philip's just standing up straight, just on it, dude. He's like in, hyper vigilant mode. He's going to find where the action is. And he just goes into journalism mode and just does it. And I was like, that guy's got balls. I love it. And the second thing was when he caught the DPS trooper, the highway patrol in Texas fella speeding. Philip literally drives behind the guy, flashes his lights, pulls the state trooper over, and gets the he's so calm and collective and polite and yet firm with this state trooper that the trooper actually apologizes to him. And I just thought those two things, even before his lawsuit, were just very impressive. All
of that, yeah, I love all of that. Philip is very good, very, very good.
Yeah. Okay, got another one here from on the Twitch with Harry Blazania. I sort of missed your first question. I went to Spartan. Sorry about that. I remember calling for your first arrest with Carlos Miller. First report on you. Did that hurt or help you? I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to. I think he might be referring to he called the police station after it happened.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps when people are calling, especially when you're still sitting in the jail. And because when you're in the jail, a lot of the corrections officers, the county jails, a lot of them are pretty cool. They come up and they're like, this one guy told me that the phones are melting with people calling about you, and that's great. That definitely helps. I think it's a great thing. You know, it definitely lets them know that there's people out there that are aware that you've been arrested. I think it protects you from any kind of stuff that might happen in the jail. You know, you always hear the horror stories. Yeah, that's definitely helps, and I appreciate you calling. Thank you. Thank you for making that phone call and taking the time to do that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna hop back over. Let me check Mike Blue Hair's chat there for any new questions. Let's see. I asked that one. Aiden Umperson's got another one. Ask Jeff how awesome was EOG. We miss him.
Oh yeah, EOG was, you know, he was definitely, you know, there was a lot of stuff where we spent a lot of time together. There's a lot of stuff that we did that's of course not on YouTube. Just a great guy, and you know, old school, surly, you know, with a surly attitude and kind of a really good sense of humor, and just a great guy, just a great all-around guy. Really cared about freedom, really cared about the Constitution. You know, he was a veteran of the Coast Guard and of the Army, and one of the guys that does it for the right reason. Just a really, really stand-up great guy. Just love Thomas and really miss him. Yeah. And you know, and of course that's, you know, of course that's part of the reason why people haven't seen as many videos on my YouTube channel lately, and I apologize for that. But you know, it really hit you hard with Pennack kind of disintegrating there for a little while, and then the passing of Thomas, you know, kind of took the wind out of my sails, and also being tied up with all the litigation. But I do definitely plan on getting back out there and putting some more content out there for everybody.
Yeah. Concerned citizens, you asking if I can boost Jeff's audio. I can't do anything like that that you guys ask without doing a lot of work on my end. This is part of the reason why I'm trying to shift everybody over to Discord. I still got to produce a video on that because I can independently adjust people's volumes on that platform.
Well, I want to tell the audience something right quick. When I take this video down and re-upload it and produce it, I'm going to turn Jeff's mic up when I do the excerpts, because I always take choice bits out of the live streams and upload them to my channel. So it'll be a lot more high quality once I get done messing with it in post.
And I'm going to try to hold the phone closer to my mouth too, so that might be part of the reason.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why I told you earlier. It's just with Google Hangouts, I cannot adjust the people's volumes independently. So, and I have to. I'm being forced to push everybody towards a little bit more complicated thing, but it makes things easier for doing things in a live stream.
King 9 will not return has a question for me. I had a question for Mike Blue Hair. How is it in Oregon you get trespassed, exclusion warnings from government buildings and police stations? And then he added an addendum right underneath that. During audits, when it's clearly public access, and during business hours. Well, the way criminal trespass works in Oregon is the property owner has to ask you to leave. Then you have to remain on the property. So once you've been given notice, they can't just walk up and say you're trespassing and grab you. They have to give you notice, and then you have to leave and come back, or just remain and not leave. If you're, you know, in, say, the lobby of a police station or something like that in Oregon, you have every legal right to film inside. It's the same thing as what just went down in Morro Bay. As long as you're not filming a you know, protected area inside a prison or something, like you'd have to, you know, somehow make your way past the locked door and then get inside. You know, all those areas, there's no expectation of privacy.
You can't be filming past the controlled access point.
Right.
Where it's not accessible to the general public.
Right. So you'd have to go through a door or go through the security gates.
Yeah, but Mike, you still get trespassed though, right? I mean, you still get trespassed. I mean,
you can you can still get trespassed, but the way it works is you could go in and film for a minute and then walk out, and if they don't give you a trespassing notice, you can come back later. And
Well, I think what the person was asking was, how can they trespass you from public property where you have a legal right to be?
I don't think they can really. Honestly,
I've been right. I don't think they lawfully can, but they
Right.
do it all the time. Right now,
yes.
I am trespassed from I would say about 50% of St. Johns County, the county I live in. I can't go within 500 feet of a school during school hours, anywhere. And if you think about that, where you live, when you drive through your county, and you travel through your county, think about how many school zones you enter, how many times you come within 500 feet of a school. Right now, if I'm caught driving through a school zone on my way to work or on my way to the store during school hours, I could be arrested. And of course, I have to do it all the time. But how can they do that? I don't know. How can they trespass me from the convention center where I've been trespassed from?
Honestly, legally, I don't think they can, but they just claim the right to thug you around,
And if I go back to the convention center, I'll be arrested.
I want to go way back about an hour ago, because this is it just came full circle. Now, one of the people listening to this at home might not know that one of your first big legal beefs was with a school, because basically the students' lockers were being searched, or they were bringing drug dogs into the school to condition kids. I felt that they were just trying to condition the kids to be used to being in a police state by having drug dogs come into their school and search lockers. Yes.
Yeah, the story behind that is I had overheard my son and his friends talking about in his middle school, Pacetti Bay Middle School, when they were getting off the bus, they had all the kids come in off the bus, line up along the wall once they got inside the school, drop their bags at their feet, hold their hands above their head, and told not to move or the dog might bite you, as they brought the dog down the line of kids who were being detained and put against the wall while the dog sniffed the kids and their bags. And I went to the school I was looking online because they used to keep this calls of service online until they figured out that I used that to go to places. I believe they actually took that down off their website because they knew that I was using that as a source of information to go film stuff. But I knew there was a canine officer there, so I went there to the Pacetti Bay Middle School to ask some questions about how they used canine dogs and why were they doing things that they were doing. And I was trespassed from the school. So, they told me to go outside and wait by the flagpole. The principal would come talk to me, and then instead of the principal coming to talking to me, they trespassed me off the school. And of course, the school employees and the school district and the administration said that I was there causing a disturbance in a threatening manner and illegally recording without permission and all this, violating Florida's felony wiretapping statute, which is nonsense. But that's what they say and that's what they do, and it's out there and you got to fight against that. Now there's people that think that I'm some sort of crazy person that goes into schools and causes disturbances.
Now, just to be clear, the students were being lined up on a wall in the hallway, yes?
Right. That's what I overheard my son and other Pacetti Bay students talking about.
And your son and his friends are saying they were forced to line up on a wall, and then they were told that if they moved, the dog was going to bite them, and then they just searched their stuff without any legal protections or anything. Just screw your First Amendment, Junior. We're gonna torture you. This is psychological abuse, is what it is.
That's Fourth Amendment, not First Amendment.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Fourth Amendment. That's psychological abuse to do that to children. I mean, it's traumatizing.
Right, and this was a school that my son attended. All three of my children were going to attend at some point. I'm a parent of three children that go to St. Johns County schools, and I wanted to know what their policy and procedure was and the scope of how they use their canine dogs. And I was trespassed. They refused to answer the questions. I made public records requests on the topic. They refused to provide me with those public records, which I need to revisit. And that's these. One thing I'll tell you that I've learned: sheriff's departments, police departments, and all these law enforcement type of agencies, they pale in comparison to school districts and the amount of power and the abuse of civil rights that school districts that engage in. The school districts are very, very abusive of their power, no doubt about it. And they have a lot of pull.
Yeah, and how should I put it? I mean, there's a good example with a recent lawsuit against the sheriff's department that I think they settled for like over. It was in the multiple millions of dollars. I think it might have been $11 million because it involved violations of a large student body's civil rights that attended that school, involving searches and stuff like that.
Right. Well, I made a public records request to the St. Johns County School District on what was their policy. You know, they basically, a school district can't do anything without having a written policy that the school board has voted on and approved. And I asked for their policy back in 2012 or 13 on the scope of drug dog use in the schools and searches. They just basically refused to answer me. They wouldn't even provide me with information. I need to go back to that and try to ask for that information again.
Well, a good thing we jogged your memory with all these fun questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue on with the questions. Guys, I'm going to skip around on some of these questions, so I do apologize ahead of time that if I skip past it, but I have quite a few stacked up, and I want to find some good ones here. When Dan O says, when cops say, do you remember 9/11? A good response might be, do you remember Pearl Harbor? Okay, that wasn't really a question, that was more of a statement, so sorry on that one.
9/11, the day the box cutter destroyed our civil liberties.
Yeah, and of course, my favorite time to do the silent treatment in my especially fun outfit. Okay, Roger Joyner, how has auditing changed over the years?
Huh, good question. How has it changed over the years? Well, me with a personal experience, it's really kind of odd if I go out and do an audit or a civil rights investigation, pretty much within a 200-mile radius of where I live, everybody basically has learned their lesson around here. Which was, my goal was to make sure that civil rights were respected. But is it a question of, well, it's Jeff Gray, don't go out there and talk to him because he has a right to do it. But if somebody else went out and was filming the police, would their rights be respected? You know what I'm saying? Are they really respecting our rights, or they just know not to go out and mess with Jeff Gray? Honor your oath.
I have to weigh in for a second. I get constant reports of people from my area locally in Portland where the police are lying to them, telling them that they can't film. So unfortunately, it's really the personality or your media reach. Once my channel got a decent size, and once I got a reputation with law enforcement, they would respect the civil rights of my cop watchers that were out with me patrolling, but then we would always constantly get stories from other people that are being intimidated and harassed for filming. So unfortunately, Jeff, I think it's the latter rather than the former.
Yeah, I agree.
And to further add on to this, when some of the new guys started over in LA, like Time to Stand and High Desert Community Cop Watch and stuff like that, those guys showed up on the scene over there in LA. I mean, there was quite a few people like Onus News Services. You had Tom Zebra that figure they figured it out because they stopped him and them up after a couple of years there of getting nailed and having a few lawsuits.
He got arrested a lot. Man.
But it turns out no, they didn't, because the new guys that showed up on the scene, they ended up having their rights violated and left and right documenting it. And it might be a similar situation, and that's part of the reason why I advocate for the various auditors, cop watchers, and testers to go out and cross-check other people's work and see if it's actually done an improvement or not.
Right, I agree with that, and that's one of the things I remember back when I first started. A lot of people were saying, Jeff, you need to come to Seattle and do this here, and I'm like, man, look, I live in St. Augustine. I'm not rich. What I want people to do is start their own stuff in their own communities and go out and do this, but with the understanding that it is dangerous and you are putting yourself at great risk. But that's what, I wanted other people to start doing it in their own areas and across the country to hold their public officials accountable. So,
yeah. You hear that, people out there on the internet, like it's not up to Bunny Boots, myself, Tom Zebra, all the other auditors, and Jeff Gray. The only savior for the American people is the American people. We need your help. You know, that's the whole point of this show, is for us to get Jeff Gray's method, his modus operandi out there, and all the other people that we're going to interview in the future, is so you guys can found your own cop watching groups. And if you're interested in not auditing, you know, and you want to do cop watching like I do, contact me. If you're interested in, you know, the silent treatment type stuff that Bunny does, contact him, and I'm sure he'll work with you and walk you through on how to emulate his style. But that's the whole point, is to get you guys that are listening to start participating.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, one other thing is, if you do want to see us to travel, I mean, help raise the money specifically for, I mean, for us to travel, kind of thing. I mean, if I have the time and resources to be able to travel, I will do that. I mean, when I go back to my home state to deal with stuff up there, I make sure I try to get some filming in and do some work and all that stuff when I have the opportunity. I'm always carrying my camera and stuff like that. I mean, I want to be able to travel around Southern Oregon and other states and stuff like that. But the problem is it costs money. And so we are forced to turn to other means to try to raise revenue to be able to cover that if we really want to push that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, man, we all have fundraisers. We all have GoFundMe's or PayPal donation links. Smash those. I mean, if you want to see us move around more, just, you know, jump up and down on those support buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with YouTube killing everybody's revenue.
Oh yeah, it's getting pretty bad, especially after the blood sports thing with Andy Worski. The whole super chat thing was actually a good way for a while there, and then now with the super chats, if you try to put in certain words, it won't allow it to go through. So it's hard to say if the super chat system's gonna get hemmed up really bad with YouTube. But let's go ahead and get back to the questions here. Another one from Twitch here by Hara Bazania. Have you ever considered writing pamphlet on asserting verbal non-consent to officers trying to trick you into consent? The language asserting peaceful rights verbally.
Well, I used to carry the. I guess hopefully I'm answering this correctly. I used to carry the little yellow card with our rights on it, but you know, I basically have my shtick that I stick to. You know, when the law enforcement officer first approaches me, I like, you know, it's kind of, I guess, the opposite of what you do, Bunny Boots, David. But I'd like to go ahead and tell them right off the bat. You know, I put my hand out. I try to shake their hand. I tell them my name is Jeff. I'm with PennAct News Services. I'm an investigative journalist gathering content for a story. You know, they'll ask, what is the story about? And I'll say, well, it's an ongoing investigation. I can't make any further comments. And then, you know, when they ask, I have a certain way that I go, like, okay, so first time that they ask me for my ID, my automatic response to that is, well, am I being detained?
Charge complete.
And then, yes, you're either you are or you're not. Or they'll try to say, you know, they'll try to not answer the question. But, you know, I always get them to repeat what they say. Yes, you're being detained. What am I being detained for? I'm trying to ask the question to make them answer. What am I being detained for? Well, you're being detained because you're taking photographs of this public entity. Okay, so let me make sure I understand what you're saying correctly. You're detaining me because I'm taking photographs of a public building. Is that correct? That's correct. You know, so you're nailing them down into what they're saying. So later on, if they try to lie about it in the report, you have video of what, you know, you're just getting them to confirm what they've already said. So that's kind of what I do. And
yeah, essentially you're just gathering evidence for a potential case, essentially.
Well, I'm protecting myself from arrest.
Yeah.
Or not from arrest. You know, they're going to arrest you whether or not. It's up to them to whether they're going to arrest you. First of all, I'm protecting myself from being prosecuted. So I'm getting them to confirm why they're detaining me. So later on in the arrest report, they can't lie and say something else. Or if they do lie and say something else, I have them confirming on video why they're doing it. You know, I'm not arguing with them. I'm getting them to I'm investigating them. So I'm getting them to say, whatever they're going to say, they say it, and then I get them to confirm what they're saying. So I'm conducting an investigation. I'm interrogating them.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I probably misspoke. When I said case, I meant for dealing with a court case, potential court case, whether it be criminal or civil.
Right.
So something you said way early when I started asking you questions, Jeff, about your modus operandi, you stated, and I want to reiterate it because it was, just awesome. Everything you say, you're pretending as if though a jury and a judge is listening to it.
Right. That's what my friend Joel Chandler of Florida Open Government Watch taught me. Not to argue with him, but just to, you want to be well behaved, you want to be polite and peaceful, and that's like we were saying earlier. That's part of my Christian beliefs as well. To be polite, like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. Be nice. So that's what I try to stick to. I try to be nice and be polite. So.
Yeah. Okay. Another one. Give me a second. I gotta scroll back up. I was scrolling through here to look for specific one. See if there's any other good ones here. Where the hell is it? Thinking I highlighted it and I think it disappeared. I can't remember who asked it, but they asked, have there been any civil cases ruled in your favor?
Any civil cases ruled in my favor?
Yeah.
There's been numerous public records cases ruled in my favor. Well, actually, most of those were settled before they went into the courts because they knew they were wrong. And part of my settlements was always in public records issues. My goal is to get them to get in compliance with our right to access public records. So part of the settlement was always that they put a sunshine manual in the lobby of their building and that they train their staff on the proper way to produce public records. So they get training, they put a sunshine manual in the lobby, and they produce the records. That's the settlement that I wanted. And there's also been cases where I've been arrested and there has been favorable outcomes to me. But like I said, I have signed non-disclosure agreements in those situations, so I can't specifically say which ones. But it's all public record.
Here's another good one from NJ Diver. Did you appeal the airport trespass?
The airport trespass was rescinded by the administrative staff of the airport. I don't know if I ever put that out there.
Yeah, I did not know about any follow-up for you specifically, so.
Yeah, I guess I never did follow up on that. I apologize for that. They rescinded the airport trespass against me, so I can go back. I can go out there. I think that they knew that they screwed up when they trespassed me, and they rescinded it. However, there's the story of Mike Hoffman with FTG, what used to be Fuck the Government, and we all know, who are familiar with his case, what happened to him. He really got railroaded. He basically was arrested, tried, and convicted for standing on public property holding a sign that said fire the TSA. I don't get it. He did time in jail for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he push in for an appeal on that or get a chance to do that?
Yeah, he's working on an appeal right now with that. Andrew Bondaroo, a really good attorney, is doing that for him. Pro se, I guess, is the word for it.
Okay.
And he's working on that, but it's just a big screw job. That the Duval County court system up there is just as atrocious. They're terrible. Yeah,
I remember the with Pinnack and that one judge going at it for a good almost 6 months there, just trying to cover the case.
Yeah, we were just trying to cover Mike's case, and that's where he put that ridiculous administrative order out there saying that we couldn't say anything critical of the judiciary, and we couldn't take photographs of a courthouse that cost the taxpayers of Duval County, $300 million.
From across the street, that was even worse.
Yeah. You couldn't take pictures of the courthouse. You couldn't be critical of the judiciary, and of course that got massive national media attention from all kind of places, and under pressure from all of that and making a fool of himself, he rescinded that unconstitutional order. So that was one of my favorite things that I've done so far.
Yeah, and
me and Thomas too.
Yeah, what was it? Over in California, over in the LA area, apparently there's a similar fight going on where if you film the inside from like the sidewalk, the entryway there, they will try to arrest you, or they'll try to get you on a court order court order violation or local rules violation.
Yeah,
that's currently being fought.
There's a difference between just want everybody to know there's a difference between being arrested for violating a statute and being arrested for contempt of court. There's a big difference there. If you want to try to avoid getting arrested for contempt of court, because it's just basically up to the judge how long he's going to hold you and everything. So educate yourself on that. That's why back when
just quickly, I've been arrested for contempt of court, and yeah, Jeff is absolutely right. This is the way it works in every state. Once the judge makes a decision, a judge can give you a month in jail, and there's no fighting it. The deputies take you downstairs or across the street to the jail, and that's where you stay. So, acting up inside a courtroom, not a good idea.
Yeah, and that's why when I was out there testing or doing a civil rights investigation, getting them to come out and actually enforce that order so that we could file a federal, and this is the whole thing. They try to make this sound like it's such a bad thing that you get them to enforce their unconstitutional ordinances, and then you sue them to enforce your civil rights, and they act like it's a bad thing that you did that. It's not a bad thing. We filed a federal civil rights lawsuit, me on Andrew Bonnaroo, on behalf of Thomas, the Epic Old Guy, and I filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against that judge for that administrative order, and we didn't even have to go to court because the media attention was so bad about it. But that got that order reversed and dropped. That judge, under extreme pressure and embarrassment, realized that he made a mistake, and he rescinded his unconstitutional order. There's nothing wrong with going out there and enforcing your civil rights. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And if you have to do it through the court system, then do it through the court system. But the court system is really bad. But yeah, I don't go inside courthouses. I don't go inside courtrooms. I've just gotten to the point where I don't even mess around with that. I don't go into the courthouse. I don't go into courtrooms. I don't recommend anybody else do that. And people are going to think whatever they think of me about that. But it's a whole different set of circumstances inside that courthouse.
I know it's we've had you for about 2 hours. You said you needed to go to sleep here soon. Did you want to stick around and answer a few more questions, or do you want to go ahead and call it a night?
Well, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. I gotta get up at 1 o'clock in the morning. But one thing I wanted to say is I just want to thank everybody. I'm glad that there's so many people out there doing the civil rights audits and civil rights investigations, First Amendment audits. That's what I wanted everybody to do: get their own YouTube channels, get this stuff out there, and make these public entities comply with our civil rights. There was a cop watcher that I think found a cop watch. She said that we have to acclimate them to our civil rights, and that's what we're doing. We have to hold them accountable. Go out there and make public records requests, do follow-ups, and find out what they're saying and what's being done after you've gone out and done a civil rights investigation. But also, one other thing I want to say is a lot of people contact me on Facebook and through Messenger and through messages on YouTube, and they say, "Hey Jeff, I want to make you aware somebody has ripped your video and they put it up on their channel and they're claiming it as their own." And I appreciate people doing that. I appreciate people looking out for me, bringing that to my attention. But I want people to do that. I want people to take my videos and put them on their channel and mirror their videos, my videos, because all of our channels are constantly under threat of being the channel being shut down by YouTube. So the more people that take my videos and put them out there, I would appreciate it if you give me credit for it, But if you want to take my videos, put it on your channel, please do so. Do that. I encourage people to do that.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, actually, here in the United States, you are legally obligated to give credit to the source material in that kind of situation, and when you don't, you do open yourself up to civil lawsuit, of course, by the copyright owner in that aspect. I do quite a bit of good on backing up my First Amendment stuff myself, so I'm not actually worried, well, having the need of other people back my stuff up, but each individual tester, cop watcher, auditor will have their way of doing things, and if you want to mirror something or use a copy of their stuff, I recommend reaching out and contacting them first and getting their permission, or at least getting the understanding of what they will allow and what they won't allow when it comes to their content.
I agree with that. Yeah, contact them. I mean, I guess that's why I'm using this platform, to let people know that it's cool with me if you do that. You know, of course, give me credit for let people know that it was originally from me, you know, or if you do that with somebody else, of course, give the original creator of the content credit for creating the content. But if you want to put my videos on your channel or create a whole different channel but use my videos, I'm cool with that. I'm absolutely cool with that, because I know that one day my YouTube channel will eventually probably get taken down. I'm surprised that it hasn't already, because most people have suffered that fate with their activist YouTube channels. I've just been very blessed so far that mine hasn't been taken down.
All right, well, I think we'll go ahead and call it in the show. Michael Bluehair, why don't you go ahead and plug your stuff?
Sure, man. You know, all of us activists are only as strong as our signal, and I think it's really important to check out the links underneath this video and follow Jeff's stuff. Follow Bunny Boots. You know, you've been prompted enough on the screen, you know, where our YouTube channel is. If you're watching this on Steam, do hook me up with an upvote or resteam for police accountability, and you will get that golden pony that I promised you. You know, it's going to happen. You know, gold ponies for everybody that upvotes and resteams. And I'd like to say thank you so much, Jeff. This was awesome. It was a really great treat for me. You were one of the first people that came to my mind when I wanted to do this show, and I'm just thrilled with the outcome. And thanks a lot, brother.
Hey, right back at you. I really admire your work. I think you really put yourself out there and put yourself at great risk, greater risk than I do. And I like you. I really admire your work, and yours as well, David.
Yeah. And just to let everybody know, yes, I could not get to everyone's questions. We just ran out of time. Maybe we'll have an opportunity to have Honor Your Oath on in the future, and we'll be able to field more questions for him. But as is, you can catch me. I stream on 4 different platforms when I'm doing stuff, either like IRL stuff or doing the First Amendment testing, cop watching. I am on YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, and Mixer. The links are in the description. Also, if you want to be able to have a chance to chat with me on the side here and there, check out the Discord, which is in the link of my channel for YouTube and Twitch there. And you should be able to get that going. I'll work on getting a tutorial going here soon for all those non-tech savvy people to sort of have a basic understanding of how they can get in there and how to get it to work for them, so they can actually communicate. And if anybody else wants to like hop in, or any of the other activists or whatever, they'll be able to get a nice little identifier saying, hey, they're a verified activist, and so this way everybody knows who you are. And Patreon supporters get a similar kind of identifier too. But as is, we'll go ahead and close it out with our favorite lovely little ending scene there. I'm pretty sure you're very familiar with, Mike. While you go ahead and give that final plug before I hit the launch on that.
Oh, you mean the gold pony thing?
No, not the gold pony. The one that we did last week, last Friday. That with the Valentine's thing.
No, I'd rather not. I'm feeling coy today.
Oh, feeling coy. Okay. Well, as this is a little fun parody thing, making fun of the Morro Bay guys that were harassing the people that are out there filming the police station for a second day. So as is, I'm gonna go ahead and mute up that. I'm gonna set that up to play, and we'll close out with that for the day. You guys have a good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are at.
Bye.
Bye.